Well, lads, I'm just going to explain really quickly S plus plan heating and how you'd read the schematics for anybody who has a phase 4 heating exam coming up. So the first thing, just keep in mind, I don't have a brown pen, so I've had to use red, but just imagine that red is brown. So in this exam, you will have 3 valves and you'll have 3 stats, right? You'll have 1 stat for your hot water and you'll have 2 for your heating. So it could be your bedroom, your sitting room, kitchen, whatever, right? So that's basically what we have. We have a time clock, we have a burner and a pump, or a boiler. Burner or boiler, same thing, right? First thing you're going to want to do is bring a permanent live. That's what's going to feed everything in this, right? Permanent live from number 1 on your DIN rail. So I'll attach a video at the end of this to show you what it actually looks like. Now look, obviously keep in mind everybody's boards could look different. I'm in a certain college and you could be in a different college and yours might look completely different, but you'll get the idea of what you're supposed to be at, right? So mine was number 1. So if you look at your time clock, right, on the back of your time clock, it will say 1 is your live, 2 is your neutral, or whatever. Mine says 1 live, 2 neutral, 3 is hot water, or 3 and 4 is hot water, 5 and 6 is room stat, 7 and 8 is room stat, right? So that's just my own personal time clock. So just have a look at the back of your time clock and it will tell you which numbers are allocated to which device, okay? You're going to bring a permanent live from your mains connector in your board to your live on your time clock, but you're not actually wiring the time clock itself because that's already wired for you. So you'll have your time clock, right, and then underneath in your actual board, in a separate little board, you'll have a DIN rail. So it'll be like maybe that many connectors, let's say. So you'll have earth, live, neutral, and you'll have about probably 12 or 13 connector blocks there and another earth at the end again, okay? So you have a choice. You can loop another brown or another permanent live out of your mains, or you can loop one out of your time clock. Whatever suits yourself, whatever you want to do. But you have to bring another live and it has to be connected to one of these cables. Or it has to be connected to this cable or one of these devices to here. So what you're going to do is what I did, I'll explain what I did and you can decide then what you would do in that situation. I brought a permanent live from my mains to my time clock, and then I brought another one from my mains to my valve, to my valve, to my valve. So you have to loop these valves, right? But just ensure that when you're looping to your valves, there's going to be a different couple of cables on the side. Now mine were brown, blue, grey, orange, earth. So you're going to be, when you're coming over here, you're going to be bringing that brown or bringing that permanent live into that grey. So you have the grey coming in here and then you're going to have your brown coming into the same one. Okay, so just make sure that you're going into your greys here, right? So that's that. And then we have the channels. So I'll explain the channels, right? So on the back of your time clock, again, it will tell you, it'll say 3 and 4 is hot water, or 5 and 6 is hot water, and then 7 and 8 is room stat or heating, right? So these two will be referred to as heating because I can see here this is hot water. So on my time clock, it said 3 and 4 was hot water, and my 5 and 6 was heating, and my 7 and 8 was heating. So I'm going to bring one from my DIN rail underneath my time clock. So I brought a cable from number 3, which is my hot water, down to number 1 on my stat. So this is a pipe stat, and I'll write that in just so you know. This is your pipe stat, and your pipe stat is basically just your stat for your hot water. And then these will just be, we'll say, stat 1 and stat 2. So they're just your standard, stats for the room or whatever to change the temperature, right? To change the heating. So you're going to bring it from 3 or from where your hot water is going into from your time clock down to number 1 on your pipe stat. And then same here, you're going to have going from number 5 or your heating to your stat 1, number 1. And then same here again, from 7, heating, down to stat 2, number 1, right? And it'll say on the edge of your little connector block, or if it doesn't say, it's just literally just the first connector that's on that particular stat connector, right? So that's that. And then we have out of number 2, you're going to your hot water, right? But, or sorry, out of 2, you're going to your valve. Out of 2, you're going to your valve. Out of 2, you're going to your valve. But make sure you connect 2. Again, as I said, remember, there's going to be a different couple of cables going in this side of the stat, right? Or it could be this side, depending on what side your stats are in the board, right? You'll have brown, blue, grey, orange. Or brown, blue, orange, grey, or whatever way they have it in the college that you're in. You're connecting these 3 to the brown side. So you're going to be bringing 2 to where the brown is in your valve 3. I have this one allocated as valve 3, but you could allocate that as valve 1, valve 2, valve 3, whatever you want to do. But just make sure you remember which valve it is that you're working from. But I think it's just easier in your schematic to do it like this. But it should tell you on your exam, like I've written here, Y1, Y2, Y3, that's why I have valve 1, valve 2, valve 3. So that's fine. You're going to connect 2 to brown on your hot water valve, which is valve 3, 2 to your valve 2, which is brown, 2 to your brown on valve 1 as well. Again, these 2 are for heating, this one's for hot water. So that's fine, that's that. And then we have the oranges. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to get another brown, or whatever your lecturer tells it to use, but mine told me to use brown. You're going to get another brown, and on your valve stats you're going to have an orange cable. So you're going to loop your oranges. So what I did in my exam was I went valve 1 to valve 2 to valve 3 on the orange, right? And then out of valve 3 I went to my pump and I went to my burner. But if you want to go valve 1 to burner, burner to valve 2 to valve 3 to pump, you can do that, of course. Just once they all bell out and once they all work, that's the main thing. But you can literally do this however you like. And then the last thing we have to do then is your neutrals, which is fairly straightforward. I would say most people understand this. Same with your earths. I don't have the earths drawn in on this, but that's again fairly straightforward. But look, if you're not understanding that, that's no problem. You can give me a message and I'll try explain it as best I can. But your neutrals basically are coming from your mains again. You're looping to your time clock, you're looping to your valve, or sorry, the DIN rail at the time clock. You're looping to your DIN rail, you're looping to your valve 1, your valve 2, your valve 3, your boiler and your pump. If you don't have a frost stat, because there's a couple of things in the exam that I didn't use. So if you didn't have a frost stat, I think that's what I didn't use, a frost stat. I didn't use valve 4, and I think burner stat. I think that's the last one. Whatever you're not using, don't even worry about it. Honestly, what I do is I stick a bit of black electrical tape over the connectors that I'm not using so I can completely get it out of my head. But don't even worry. You don't need to, obviously you don't need to earth them, you don't need to put a neutral in them, you don't need to do anything with them, so you just leave them blank. But this I got this exam for the mock exam and it was fairly handy, but that's basically it, lads. And just to let you know as well, in case you're unsure, this is S plus, and S plus is 3 valves. So if you were to get S plan in your exam, it's the exact same thing, just minus 1 valve. You're still going to have your hot water, but you're going to minus 1 heating valve there. So you're not going to have this one here, and you're not going to have this valve or this valve, whatever, depending, you know, this valve. You'll only have 2 valves and 2 stats. So you'll have your pipe stat and your stat 1, and you'll only have 2 valves. So I'm not going to draw S plan out because it's the same thing. Just completely ignore this and completely ignore this. and that's your S plan. But if there's anything more I can do for you, lads, let me know. It's no problem at all, and hopefully this helps some people. So here's the S Plan Plus mock exam I got a couple of weeks ago, and I'm going to attach a few photos for you as well. So this is what I meant when I said you have all the different colour cables in the valves. This is me showing you the number 1 and number 2 on your stats. This is the mains that I referred to in the schematic that you have to come back to. This is the DIN rail under the time clock with your 3, 5, 7, etc. And there's my time clock. 3 is hot water, 5 is heating and 7 is heating.